I used to wake up on January 2nd with a pit in my stomach. The tree was down, the lights were packed away, but the damage was just getting started. I remember looking at my credit card statement one year. Negative 847 dada specifically from holiday shopping. I felt sick. I felt like I had undone 6 months of hard work in 2 weeks of festive cheer. This is my real-time journey, not expert advice. Here is exactly what happened. Honestly, looking back at that $847 number, it wasn't even about the gifts. It was about the lack of a plan. It's the worst kind of hangover because you can't cure it with water and aspirin. It's the financial hangover. For years, my strategy for Christmas was what I call swipe and pray. I'd swipe the card, smile while handing over the gift, and pray that future me in January would somehow find the money to pay for it. It sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud now. I mean, Christmas happens on December 25th every single year. It's not a surprise. It's not an emergency like a flat tire or a broken tooth. But for some reason, my brain treated it like an unexpected catastrophe every time. I would get swept up in the emotion of it all, the music, the ads, the pressure to be a good friend or family member, and my budget would just evaporate. I remember sitting at my kitchen table staring at that statement, feeling this heavy mix of guilt and stupidity. I had spent money I didn't have to buy things people probably didn't need, all to impress them. And now I was the one left holding the bag. I felt trapped. I promised myself right then that I would never, ever let a holiday put me back into debt again. I needed a system that was smarter than my willpower because clearly, my willpower vanishes the second I smelled gingerbread lattes. That's when I stumbled onto this boring, unsexy concept that completely changed my life. So the concept is called a sinking fund. I know, it's a terrible name. It sounds like a ship going down or money disappearing into a hole. But honestly, it's the only thing keeping my head above water. Here is how I wrapped my head around it. A sinking fund is just a fancy way of saying saving a little bit of money every single week for a specific thing I know is coming. It's the opposite of a surprise. It's premeditated spending. I sat down with my messy spreadsheet and asked myself a hard question. What is a realistic number for Christmas? Not the number I wished I could spend, like I'm some secret millionaire, but a number that wouldn't ruin my January. I looked at my income, my bills, and my debt repayment goals, and I landed on $600. That had to cover everything. Gifts for my family, the office Secret Santa exchange, even the wrapping paper and tape. Now, if I try to find $600 in my budget in December, it's impossible. It feels like a mountain. I'd have to stop eating or stop paying the electric bill to make that happen. That's why I always used the credit card. But I decided to break the mountain down into pebbles. Here's the math I used. I realized if I started saving about 7 or 8 months early, the math became almost laughable. $600 divided by 30 weeks is just $20 a week. $20, that's it. That's 2 fast food lunches. That's a couple of streaming subscriptions I don't watch. It felt so small that it almost seemed pointless, but that's the trick. I logged into my bank app and saw that I could open a secondary savings account for free. I did it immediately and renamed it Christmas Fund. Then, I set up an automatic transfer. Every single Friday, the day I get paid, the bank automatically moves $20 from my checking account to this Christmas Fund. I'm not gonna lie, the first few months were boring. Painfully boring. In July, I looked at the account and it had maybe $100 in it. I remember staring at that balance and thinking, I could really use this $100 for a weekend trip right now. The temptation to raid the fund was real. I had to mentally lock it away. I had to tell myself, that money isn't yours. That money belongs to December. It's weird how hard it is to let money just sit there. We are so used to money either coming in or flying out immediately. Letting it just be there, waiting for its job, felt unnatural. I felt like I wasn't making progress on my main debt because I was diverting this cash to a savings bucket. But I had to trust the system. By October, the balance hit $400. And that's when the anxiety started to lift. Usually in October, I start getting that low-level panic about the holidays. I start doing mental gymnastics about how many overtime hours I need to work. But this time, I looked at the Christmas fund and realized I was already two-thirds done. I hadn't felt the pinch. The $20 a week had just become part of my routine, like brushing my teeth. I didn't even miss it anymore. And the wildest part? When I finally hit that $600 goal in late November, the money was just there. It wasn't magic. It wasn't a bonus from work. It was just my own boring consistency. $20 at a time, stacking up while I wasn't looking. So, here's what happened when I actually went shopping last week. It was weird. Usually walking into a mall in December triggers my fight or flight response. I'm doing mental math, sweating, worrying about the credit limit. But this time, I transferred the cash from my Christmas fund to my checking account before I left the house. I had exactly $600. I bought a Lego set for my nephew. I bought a nice candle for my mom. I picked up the wrapping paper, and when I went to pay, I didn't wince. I swiped my debit card and I knew the money was already there to cover it. It honestly felt like I was buying gifts for free. I know that sounds dumb because it was my money, but because the pain of saving it was spread out over 30 tiny, unnoticed payments, the spending part felt painless. There was no guilt. There was no, I shouldn't be buying this. There was just peace. That is the biggest lesson I learned from this experiment. Willpower is overrated. I always thought I just needed to be stronger or be more disciplined in December. But willpower breaks when you're tired or stressed. Systems don't break. This sinking fund was a system that protected me from myself. Now I'm addicted to this feeling. I'm looking at other things that stress me out. Car repairs, vet bills, my annual insurance premium. I'm realizing they aren't emergencies. They are just expenses waiting to happen. If I can set up a car tires fund for $15 a week, maybe I won't feel like the sky's falling when I get a flat next year. The 1% journey isn't about never spending money. It's about spending money without the hangover. My 1% mission for this week is to set up just one new sinking fund for next year. I'm going to open a savings account, name it car repairs, and set up an automatic transfer for just $10 a week. That's it. What is your 1% step? Is there an expense that always stresses you out? Can you start saving $5 a week for it right now? Let me know what you're saving for in the comments. I am not a financial expert or advisor. This content is for documenting my personal journey and for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research before making any financial decisions.